She didn't skip my house celebration. She skipped it, then texted me the next morning asking for a key to my house like she already owned the damn place. That was the exact moment something inside me snapped. And for the first time in years, I said no, not angry, not loud, just no. I stared at my phone while my coffee went cold in my hand. That little message sat there like a slap across my face. No apology, no sorry we missed it. No hope you had a good night, just a casual demand, like my home was some extra property she could add to her little wish list. I looked around my brand new house. Big windows, soft morning light, quiet walls, peace. I had worked my whole life for this place. After losing my husband years ago, I had rebuilt myself brick by brick. Long work days, smart saving, sacrifice, loneliness, nights where I cried without anyone hearing me. And now, this home was supposed to be my fresh start. But somehow my grown son and his wife already saw it as theirs. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. The night before had been beautiful. Friends filled the rooms. Music drifted through the kitchen. Laughter bounced off the walls. People hugged me, celebrated me, told me I deserved this. But my son and his wife didn't show. They texted last minute saying they were too tired. Too tired. Funny how people can be too tired for your joy, but never too tired when they want something. If you've ever felt like people only remember you when they need you, you'll understand. For years, I made excuses for them. My son had always been soft-hearted, too soft, the kind of man who avoided conflict so hard he'd let people walk right over him. And his wife? She had a polished smile and expensive taste. Everything had to feel bigger, newer, better. The nicer the purse, the louder she carried it. The newer the furniture, the prouder she talked. At first, I told myself she was just confident. Then I realized, no, she was entitled. And I had helped create that monster. Because every time they came up short, I quietly stepped in. Rent, bills, emergency money, little temporary help that somehow stretched into years. I kept telling myself I was helping my son. But deep down, I was funding their comfort. And maybe their disrespect too. So I texted back one word, no. That's it. No explanation. A few minutes later, my phone rang. My son. I already knew. Mom, what's going on? His voice sounded nervous, like always, like a man stuck in the middle of his wife and his spine. I stayed calm. What do you mean? He hesitated. She's upset. Why won't you give us a key? Us. That word hit me, like I owed them permanent access, like my front door was community property. I looked outside at my garden. Birds moved through the bushes. The world was peaceful. I wanted that peace. Because this is my home, I said. You missed the housewarming. You barely checked in. If you want to visit, call first. But nobody needs a key. Silence. Then excuses. She was tired. They were busy. He meant to come. She wanted to see the house. Same old song. Different day. I let him talk. Then I ended the call. Quietly, that's when everything shifted. I realized boundaries don't always start with yelling. Sometimes they start with one calm sentence. 2 days later, I heard tires crunching in my driveway. I looked outside. My son and his wife. No warning. Of course. She stepped out holding storage bins. Big plastic ones. Like she was already moving in. I almost laughed. Then I almost cried. Because the audacity was unreal. I opened the front door halfway. What's up? She smiled too fast. That fake sweet smile people wear before asking for something wild. We were nearby, she said. Thought we'd bring a few things for the guest room. Guest room, not a guest room. The guest room, like it had already been assigned. I blocked the doorway. Today's not a good day? Her smile dropped. It'll only take a second. No. My son looked embarrassed. She shifted the bin. This house is huge. There it was. The sentence I knew was coming. Huge. People always count your blessings like they helped build them. I folded my arms. That doesn't make it storage space. She blinked hard, then scoffed. You live here alone. That one stung. Because people love using loneliness like leverage. I kept my voice steady, and I like it that way. Then I shut the door. Simple, clean, done. On the other side I heard muffled anger, a car door slam, tires peeling off, then silence. I walked back to my kitchen, turned up my music, finished chopping vegetables. My hands were shaking, not because I felt guilty, because I realized how long I'd been scared to upset people who had no problem upsetting me. That night I couldn't sleep. I opened my laptop, And that's when I saw it. The monthly transfer, still active. Automatic money sent to my son every single month. Thousands. I stared at it. My chest tightened. It had started years ago when he struggled financially. A short-term boost. That was the plan. Then life got comfortable for them. Too comfortable. Vacations, fancy upgrades, constant shopping, weekend trips, new decor, all while I quietly covered part of their lifestyle. I didn't realize it at the time. I wasn't helping them grow. I was protecting them from consequences. And people who never face consequences usually start believing they deserve rescue. I hovered my finger over the screen, then clicked, cancel transfer. A pop-up asked if I was sure. I almost laughed. I had never been more sure. Confirm. Just like that. The cord was cut. I leaned back in my chair and breathed out. Not revenge. Not punishment. Clarity. That money belonged to my future. My peace. My security. My life. The next morning, I walked through my home differently. Lighter. Stronger. Like I had finally unlocked a door inside myself. But what happened next changed everything. Because they weren't done trying. And neither was life. The next week, I made a change nobody saw coming. Not loud, not dramatic, but it sent a message stronger than any argument ever could. I turned part of my house into something they could never touch. The backside of the home had 2 large extra rooms I had barely used. For years, I had left spaces in my life open for other people. Just in case my son needed help. Just in case they wanted to stay over. Just in case family needed me. That mindset had kept me emotionally available, but also painfully easy to use, so I stopped leaving empty space for people who only showed up when they wanted something. One room became my reading room, wall-to-wall shelves, soft chairs, warm lamps, silence. The other became my art space. I hadn't painted in years, not since my husband passed. After he died, grief had stolen pieces of me I didn't even notice disappearing. Joy, creativity, stillness, parts of myself I quietly buried while taking care of everyone else. Now I wanted them back. Canvas, paint, brushes, mess, color, life. And then I did one more thing. I installed a keypad lock on that hallway entrance. Clean, simple, private. No spare code, no conversation, no permission. A locked door says what weak boundaries never can. This ends here. That evening, I stood inside my new art room staring at fresh blank canvas. Funny thing about blank space, it can feel lonely or powerful. Depends on whether it was taken from you or finally claimed by you. For the first time in years, I felt like I was rebuilding something that belonged only to me. Then my phone rang. My son. Of course. His voice sounded careful. Too careful. Hey, Mom. Can we stop by tomorrow? I already knew she was behind that call. Sure. Pause. She wants to see the extra rooms. There it was, always circling back to space. Access. Control. I smiled even though he couldn't see it. Coffee at 5. That was all I said. The next day they arrived exactly on time. No storage bins. No fake gifts. No pretending they were just nearby. This was intentional. I welcomed them in. Fresh coffee. Cake. Small talk. Normal. Too normal. That fake, peaceful tension before a storm. His wife sat on my sofa, crossing one leg over the other like she was reviewing a property listing. Her eyes moved around the house, scanning, calculating, judging. Then she smiled, sharp and polished. So, where are the guest rooms now? Not if, not do you still have them. Where are they? Like she still expected access. I took a sip of coffee. There aren't guest rooms anymore. Her brows tightened. What do you mean? I redesigned that section. My son shifted. He already knew. She didn't. That made this worse. For what? A reading room and a painting studio. Silence. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. Like I had said something stupid. You made 2 giant rooms into hobbies? That word. Hobbies. The kind of dismissive word people use when they don't value what matters to you. I stayed calm. Yes, she leaned forward. That's such a waste. We could actually use those rooms. Again, that little word, always trying to sneak ownership into my life, my son quietly muttered. Please don't. She ignored him. Of course she did. Then she stood up, without asking, and walked toward the hallway. Like my answer didn't matter, like boundaries were optional. I stayed seated. A few seconds later, beep, 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 pause, then a hard, frustrated sound. Another beep, then louder, then footsteps, fast. She stormed back, red-faced. You seriously put a lock there? Yes. Her voice jumped. Why would you lock family out? There it was, the guilt weapon. Family. Funny how people love that word when they want access. Not responsibility, not respect, just access. I set my cup down, because now we were finally going to say it. This house belongs to me. She crossed her arms. That's selfish. I looked directly at her. No, expecting space that was never yours is selfish. My son froze. She stared. I kept going. Calm, steady, steel. You missed my celebration. You demanded a key. You showed up with storage boxes. You assumed rooms belonged to you. None of that is normal. She looked stunned. Probably because I wasn't apologizing. Wasn't softening. Wasn't shrinking. People get uncomfortable when quiet people stop staying quiet. She scoffed. You're overreacting. No, I said. I'm finally reacting. That landed hard. The room felt still. Even my son looked like he had never heard me speak like that. She grabbed her purse. Come on. He hesitated, then stood. At the door he turned. His eyes held shame and confusion, like he was starting to see something he had ignored for years. Then they left. I shut the door, and my legs nearly gave out. Not because I regretted it, because standing up for yourself after years of silence feels weird, even when it's right, especially when it's right. If you've ever had to choose peace over people, you know that ache. A week later, the first of the month hit. I was outside watering flowers when my phone rang. My son. His voice sounded panicked. Mom. That one word told me everything. What happened? Long breath. The transfer didn't come. There it was. He hadn't noticed until he needed it. Not when I gave. Only when I stopped. I canceled it. Silence. Then sharper. What? I turned off the hose. The monthly money. His breathing changed. That pays part of our rent. I looked at the sky. Blue. Clear. Still? Then you'll need to budget. His voice cracked. Mom, we already ordered furniture because we expected. Expected. That word again. I cut in. Expected me to keep funding your lifestyle? Quiet. Then weaker. We need help. That part hurt, because he was still my son, and mothers feel things even when they're done rescuing. But love without boundaries becomes self-destruction. I knew that now. You need a plan, I said. Then I ended the call. That should have been enough. It wasn't. 3 days later, everything exploded. A moving truck rolled onto my street. I almost dropped my garden shears. Big white truck. Boxes stacked high. My son driving. His wife beside him. My stomach sank. No way. They parked outside my gate, jumped out, and walked fast. Too fast. She was already yelling before she reached the bars. Open the gate. Neighbors looked. Curtains moved. Street quiet. My pulse pounded. But I didn't move. I stayed where I was on my lawn. She pointed at the truck. We're staying here for a while. Not asking. Telling. Again. I walked closer. Stopped several feet away. No. My son's face looked exhausted. Mom, please. Just temporary. I stared at him. Boxes visible behind him. Packed. Planned. This wasn't desperation. This was strategy. They thought once they physically arrived, I'd cave. Old me probably would've. New me? No chance. My home is not your backup plan. His wife grabbed the gate bars hard. We got a warning from our landlord. I stayed calm. Then handle it. Her face twisted. You'd really let your son struggle while you live in this huge house? That guilt. Again. But this time, it bounced off me. I finally understood something painful. Helping someone avoid accountability is not kindness. Sometimes it's just fear dressed up as love. My son stepped closer. We just need a few weeks. I shook my head. No, you need to figure out your finances. That's when everything shifted. Because instead of crying, she exploded. Screaming, cursing, shaking the bars, calling me selfish, cold, heartless. Neighbors definitely heard. My son stood frozen, ashamed, broken. Then I looked at him. Not her, just him, and said quietly,
Look at this.
Really look. He did. He looked at his wife screaming in the street, then at me standing still, then at the truck, then at the choices that had brought him there. For the first time, I saw something crack, not anger, awareness. But what he said next, I never expected, and it changed everything. My son looked at me through those iron bars, and for the first time in years, He didn't defend her. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to smooth it over. He just stood there staring at the moving truck, like he was finally seeing the wreckage of his own life. Then he said something I never thought I'd hear. "Mom, don't open the gate." Everything went silent. Even his wife froze. "What?" she snapped. He stepped back from the bars. His shoulders dropped like a man finally too tired to keep carrying lies. Then he looked at her, not scared, not weak, just done. She's right. Her face changed instantly. Sharp disbelief, then rage. "What did you just say?" He pointed toward the truck. "This isn't her problem." She laughed bitterly. "Oh wow, now you grow a spine? In front of your mother?" He flinched. That tiny reaction told me everything. This wasn't the first time she had talked to him like that. Maybe I had been so focused on her entitlement. I hadn't noticed how small my son had become inside his own marriage. He rubbed both hands over his face, exhausted, ashamed. Then he looked back at me. "Mom, I'm sorry." Simple words, but they hit harder than anything else, because they were real. No performance, no manipulation, no guilt, just truth. His wife stepped toward him. "You better get in that truck." He didn't move. "We bounced rent because you ordered furniture we couldn't afford." Her mouth dropped open. "We?" He swallowed hard. "No, you." Then he kept going, years of silence finally spilling out. "You kept saying things would be fine because my mom always helped." She folded her arms. She had money. That sentence echoed, cold, ugly, blunt, like all the hidden truth had finally slipped out. Not love, not family, not support, just access, money, comfort, control. My chest tightened, not because I was shocked, because hearing it out loud made something painful feel final. My son looked sick, like hearing her say it that clearly had broken something in him. Then she pointed at me. "This whole mess started because she got selfish." I almost laughed. Funny how boundaries always look selfish to people who benefited from having none. My son shook his head. "No, this started because I let us depend on her." That was the first truly adult sentence I had heard from him in years, and maybe the hardest, because growth rarely sounds dramatic. Sometimes it sounds like quiet accountability. His wife stared, then exploded, screaming, cursing, blaming both of us, calling me bitter, calling him weak, calling us disgusting. Neighbors were definitely watching now. Curtains shifted, cars slowed, but I didn't care, because this wasn't about embarrassment anymore. It was truth. Then she did something I didn't expect. She threw her wedding ring at him. It hit the driveway and rolled, tiny, cold, loud. "I'm done," she screamed. Then she jumped into her car, not the truck. Her own car. She sped off so hard tires screamed, and just like that, she left. My son stood there staring at the empty road, still shaken, alone. Then he slowly bent down and picked up the ring, not like a husband trying to save a marriage, like a man picking up proof that something had shattered. I walked closer to the gate, still didn't open it, not yet, because compassion is not the same as losing boundaries. He looked up, eyes red. "She left." I nodded. "Yes." Then he laughed once, a painful hollow laugh. "She really left." And suddenly, he broke, hands on knees, shoulders shaking, crying, the kind of cry grown men hold in for years. Grief, failure, humiliation, fear. I had not seen my son cry like that since his father died. Every instinct in me wanted to run and rescue him. Open the gate, pull him inside, feed him, protect him, fix it. That old version of motherhood almost won. Almost. But what happened next mattered more. I stayed calm, steady. Then I said, "You can come in, alone." He looked stunned, then nodded. He parked the truck on the curb, sent it back with the driver, left the boxes, left the chaos, walked through my gate by himself, for the first time in years. He entered my home as a guest, not as someone entitled to it. That mattered. Inside, he sat at my kitchen table, same place where I once silently paid bills while pretending everything was fine. Now we sat across from each other with honesty between us. No pretending. I made coffee. He held the mug with shaking hands. Then he started talking, and talking, and talking. Years of buried truth. Debt, stress, arguments, overspending, pressure. How he kept saying yes because saying no caused fights. How every time I helped financially, they pushed harder. How he convinced himself it was temporary. How temporary became normal. Then dependence. Then resentment. Then shame. I thought I was keeping peace, he said quietly. I looked at him. No, you were avoiding truth. He nodded. Tears again. I know. That conversation lasted hours. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just painfully real. At one point he asked softly, "Can I stay here tonight?" Silence. That question mattered, because my answer would define everything. I loved him, but I had fought too hard for my peace. So I told him the truth. No. His face dropped. Then I continued. I will help you find a hotel. I will help you think clearly. I will support growth, but I will not rebuild dependency. He stared at me. Then slowly, he nodded, and I saw respect, real respect, not because I rescued him, because I didn't. That night I booked him a modest hotel. One night only. He paid me back later. His choice, his growth. Over the next few weeks, life changed. Quietly, deeply. He rented a tiny apartment. Nothing fancy, no luxury, no oversized furniture, no fake image, just real life. He sold expensive things, cut spending, tracked every dollar, took responsibility, even started therapy. That one shocked me. My son had never liked talking about feelings. Now he was learning how. As for his wife, she moved in with relatives, then filed for divorce. Fast, messy, cold. But honestly, that marriage had already been broken long before the truck showed up at my gate. That day only exposed it. Months passed. Winter arrived. Then spring. My garden bloomed again. So did I. I painted almost every day. Colors everywhere. Messy joy. Bright skies. Deep reds. Soft blues. Emotion on canvas. My reading room became my refuge. My house felt lighter than ever. Not empty. Peaceful. There's a difference. Then one Sunday, my son came by. He called first. Of course, that alone made me smile. He brought coffee. Cheap coffee. Probably from some basic roadside place. And weirdly, it meant more than expensive gifts ever could. He sat on my patio, older somehow, not in age, in understanding. We talked for hours. Budgeting, work, healing, loneliness, regret, growth. At one point he looked at me and said, "You didn't abandon me." I stayed quiet. He smiled sadly. "You just stopped saving me from myself." That sentence nearly broke me. Because yes, that was exactly it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to keep helping someone stay broken. Before leaving, he hugged me. Long, tight, honest. No obligation, no pretending, just love. Then he left, and I locked my front door, not because I feared people, because I finally valued peace. Later that night, I walked into my art room, the same private space no one once thought I had a right to claim. Warm lights, paint smell, silence, my sanctuary. I stood in front of a blank canvas and realized something powerful. For years, I thought love meant sacrifice, giving more, fixing more, absorbing more, being endlessly available. But I had been wrong. Love without boundaries becomes permission, and permission without respect becomes damage. I dipped my brush into color, then painted the first bold line. Steady, certain, mine. I never needed lawyers, never needed screaming, never needed revenge. I only needed clarity, a closed gate, a canceled transfer, a locked hallway, a calm no. That was enough to change everything. My son didn't lose his mother. He found one who finally knew her worth. And I didn't lose my family. I lost the version of family built on guilt, access, and entitlement. What remained was something smaller, healthier, real, and for the first time in my life, this home wasn't where people came to take from me. It was where peace lived, and so did I.